Welcome to the DEI Effect. I'm Travis Brown, and we are back with Juan Gonzales, the market president for KeyBank, talking about things that impact this DE and I world. So my first question is, what is DEI to you? Because there's a lot of conversation about it, but you always see people talk about it differently.
Yeah, no, because there's multiple definitions of it, depending on what you're looking at. In my view, it's all about the inclusion. Are we inviting everyone to participate in something, regardless of what that something is? And are we getting enough people from different backgrounds? Mm-hmm. That to me makes a big difference on decision making.
You have a big baller title, so you got a president, market president of a bank, which in most cases makes you a first, and then sometimes even an only. I think a lot of us from the Black and Brown perspective have trailblazed that at some level to be the first and the only. We're the largest Black-owned marketing agency. It's still in a first and only. Talk about what's it like to know that you are the first, and I think maybe even the only in your position, at least Indiana-wise, and maybe throughout the country.
Yeah, so it's interesting you say that because it is true, right? So it is an honor, but it's also a big weight on my shoulders because I always feel like not only people are watching you because you're the president, but they're also watching you more and more because you're the only Latino one, right? Mm-hmm. And they're waiting to see when is he going to make a mistake or not. And you hear that a lot. Anecdotally, people talk about that. And then when you're in the role, you're like, oh yeah, I gotta, So you know how you hear that the more you go up in ranks, the lonelier it gets? Mm-hmm. It is so true. Because everything you say now is taken differently. So you got to make sure that you are prepared for that because it's not easy. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of social pressure, but a lot of professionals are also looking at you to do that. Now, the company has been very open and willing to support me, but you still go. This industry is very male, Caucasian driven. Mm-hmm. Most banks around the country at the top level. Mm-hmm. We are working really hard in our company to change some of that, but it takes time. Yeah. And unfortunately, or fortunately, being one of the few or the only ones opens the door for me to make myself known, but also limit some of the things I can do because, they probably look at you and say, oh, he can only do this. No, I can do more. Yeah. But he's doing a great job like this, so do we move him or not,
Well, I think the pressure, and I've felt a little bit of that, I've said that publicly, just not to mess it up, right? Not to, to make it harder for anybody to come behind me. In fact, our internal company passion is that through our own excellence, mm-hmm. we're paving the way for other business owners, Black and Brown business owners, executives, and creatives to be able to succeed. And so everybody sitting in this chair has kind of shared that same sentiments. How do we get past that? And are we ever getting to a point where the conversation on DEI is not actually a thing because actually in our DNA versus this forcefulness of trying to get people to understand it?
No, 100%. I think we're making progress, though, despite how difficult it's been the last few years socially, with all the unrest and all this stuff that happens in our country. I think people, for the most part, the younger generation see through that. Like they don't look at color and things like that the way the older generation does. And I think we're seeing some of that transformation happen. I still think there's a couple of things we got to continue to push, and is the female power is so strong that I don't think we in our industries have seen yet the effect of what that's going to take us. Because you're seeing it's not just the purchasing power and the numbers that you see there, it's just the massive amount of younger women entering the workforce that are going to take over. We used to be one of the only banks that used to have a CEO that was the only female top 20 bank with a female CEO. It was an amazing journey for us. She transformed the company in many ways to start thinking differently, right? It's just, we got to bring more of that to the table. So I'm looking forward to that. And then number two is this country of immigrants of ours, the United States, we're seeing the demographics changing fast. By 2025, it'll be different. By 2050, it will be even more different. Not just Latinos, but Asians coming to the country and having babies, and like Latinos did back in the 80s. And you're seeing this phenomenon of these people that don't look like us growing in our country that are going to be running the country, which is awesome. I mean, it's what makes the United States such a great country. So in Indianapolis alone, in central Indiana, you look at the growth of the Burmese community, the South Asian community, the Latino community, of course. But the more you travel Indiana, you're starting to see a little bit of that, even though outside the big cities, it's still pretty rural. You're starting to see some pockets of population relocating, which I think will all benefit from it.
How does, since you're in your banking world, one of the things that's always challenging is for small businesses that are Black and brown owned to access capital.
Right.
And it's a major barrier. I'm going through that process, looking at PE and capital. It's challenging. How does, as a banking leader, how do we help solve that?
Yeah, Trevor, I tell you, there's two reasons I think that's happening. Is there's plenty of capital out there. I think banks banks and financial institutions want to put it out there to continue to grow. I think our communities haven't been quote unquote educated enough of the importance of financial education. And I tell you a simple example. I'm pretty sure public schools today, they don't invite bankers to talk about career day as a banker. They used to do that many years ago. Mm-hmm. So we gotta get back to the basics. Everyone doesn't have to be a sports superstar. Everyone doesn't have to be a musician. Everything, I wish I can win the Powerball tonight and then retire. That doesn't happen, right? There's a ton of jobs out there that get unfilled sometimes because kids, the younger people, don't know about them. So we gotta tell that. But the navigator concept that was introduced by the affordable healthcare applies to the financial industry the same way. I think we gotta be, and I think that's what we did with Indiana Black Expo, going to the Black community in particular on the East Side to train businesses on the basic stuff of why is it important to do tax returns, why is it important to understand the P&L and cash flow, why is it important to do projections. They don't have to be perfect, but you gotta understand what you're looking at, because when you ask for a bank loan, they're gonna ask you for all of this, right? So and you say that you're going through some of that. And there are programs out there that the government has in place. The SBA lending, for example, that is very, very, very affordable. But you got to have the documentation and the reporting and all that ready for that. So we're trying to do a lot of that at the business level.
Yeah.
At the consumer level, is all financial education. So we spend a lot of time going to our employers and doing simple, how to buy a home if that's what they care for, how to save for retirement, how to save for your kids' college. And it's becoming a tool of retention for companies now to provide these services to their employees.
This conversation around equity is super important in my mind of where we are in the procurement side of it right now. Because again, another place that touches us, we're working with now top companies to go, hey, we exist over here, working with supplier teams. How do you see that changing the landscape and ultimately kind of like the end all be all of until we change our money, nothing else happens?
Yeah, so I compare that to my personal career. So, the corporate America today, they're looking for that, right? Like they're allocating percentages, let's say 20, 25%. We got to give to, brown or black companies or minority companies because that's the right thing to do. We need a Latino on the board, So I always tell businesses like, hey, go participate, but make sure that you do a great job. Because at the end of the day, if you come in and you fail, then you're doing more damage, not just to you, 100%. But to the community in general, right?
100%.
Because then, like we were saying earlier, all the eyes are on you to fail or succeed. And if you succeed, then you're opening the door for somebody else because you're going to bring somebody else with you. If you fail, you're like, oh yeah, they cannot do it.
I can't tell you how many times we're coming behind places like, wow, we hired a black-owned, creator or marketing person before, and we're just trying to make sure that you guys can do it. And it's been that's been part of the challenge for us is because of that. So I definitely agree with you 100%. Like you gotta do it well when you're in that position, and that should be the universal burden that we all feel at some level to say, like let's do it well so that they understand. Like our campaign, which is diverse and talented, like that was our 2022 campaign with our company. We're going to double down in 23. It's diverse and talented. It's not an or. Like you're not choosing between the two. We are both diverse and we are talented, meaning that we can do the job to meet the needs. Let me ask you this last question is so what's the big ask or the big hope or the big wish? Can we get all this right? What does that even look like? Because you forecasted, how our population is changing and what that looked like. In Juan's head, what's the big wish or the ask?
I think it's a dual job because it's private and public. On the private side, I think you, myself, and many other leaders are trying to do it today with empowering the younger diverse population to learn the trade, to participate, to join you on all these events, and so they can be known, right? Like trying to open those little doors and to make sure they're successful. But two, on the public side, we need more talented people of color to participate in political life. And it doesn't have to be, it's not going to be you and I. We need younger people to get involved. I know politics, some people love it, some people hate it. At the end of the day, a lot of decisions are made through that process. Mm-hmm. So we got to participate. We got to vote. We got to have candidates of color, female, male, LGTB, more of them entering, the city county building, the state house. I mean, because that's how you're going to make the bigger difference, I think, publicly, when you start making decisions for the whole group and not just for a few. Mm-hmm. And it takes time. It takes time because younger generation, now lately, they've been getting more engaged because some of the stuff that happened in the country. And again, when I mentioned the women empowerment, you're seeing a lot of women voting this last time around. Mm-hmm. A lot of that was the younger people coming up and saying, hey, enough is enough. I want to participate. Yeah. So we need more of that to for 20 years from now, you and I hopefully will be retired and you look back and say, oh my God, mm-hmm. You really work out. Yeah. For your kids, my kids, hopefully that's the case.
Well, man, thanks so much for coming by today and just being transparent and sharing with us. I love your authenticity. Love to see what you're doing and appreciate the path that you're clearing for so many people, the doors that you're opening. I really appreciate it. Thank you, my man.
Thank you so much. It's an honor and a pleasure.
It's a wrap.